how do we talk about disability and the new creation? I don't believe in a separation of soul and body, because I think in the biblical terminology, soul, body, mind and spirit all mean the same thing, and they mean the essential me. They're not different components of the body. Within Hebrew thought, they are interrelated, and you can't rip one out from the other. And often the words are used to mean the same thing, but in different ways. So when I die, all of me dies. Body, mind, soul, spirit. My hope is not in some eternal bit of me surviving. My hope is entirely in the God who raised Jesus from the dead. My hope is that God raises me to a resurrection body, and that is part of the new heaven and the new earth. Now, you then very cleverly put in a number of sub-questions to it. And the first question that comes from that is the question of time. So when I die, how does that relate to the resurrection of believers and the new creation? And a number of Christians, including my good friend Tom Wright, who I think, can I say, has got this slightly wrong. I mean, please don't quote me that I've said that Tom Wright has got anything wrong. Is attracted to the position of believing that there is a soul to provide the continuity between the David who dies now and the resurrection of believers on the last day. So a soul kind of does exist, and God gives that soul a body on the day of resurrection. I've never been convinced by that, because I think when I die, I am no longer dominated by the temporal linear flow of time. I think for me, when I die, it's a bit like going to sleep last night. I went to sleep, and almost immediately my alarm was going off to wake me up for breakfast. Now, there have been other nights where I've not got to sleep as quickly, and I've experienced the length of time. So if I die tonight, I go straight to the resurrection. Those of you who are still alive, you've still got a lot of history to go through before you get to that. So I'm not convinced that you need a soul separately in order to do that. What's the resurrection body like was another one of the questions that you asked. And the best that I can guess is that sense of the Jesus who died on the cross being the same but different. So you rightly said, he says to Thomas, look at the marks of the nails. And yet, he appears in rooms with locked doors. There is something more than physical about Jesus, as I said the other night, rather than less than physical. But what's interesting within certain Christian traditions is that the marks of the nails are seen as marks not of suffering, but of glorification. And the importance of that links into a point that Mike's just made, which is how do we talk about disability and the new creation? My grandmother, for all of the 7 years that I knew her as a child, she died when I was 7, was confined to a wheelchair. Just before she died, she was a woman of great Christian faith. She said to me, David, when I get to heaven, I'll be able to run, she said. But I've got other friends who are confined to wheelchairs who say to me, David, my disability and abilities are so much part of my identity. What is going to be my resurrection body? Because this isn't about some kind of norm that where everything is taken away from us. And I find those marks of, the nail marks being marks of glorification, really interesting. Is there a way that God takes our abilities and disabilities, all of us, and they no longer are constraining or painful, but they're shown in all of their beauty? I've got a third friend who's in a wheelchair who says to me, David, I'm not dreaming of being able to run in heaven, he says, because I know in the new creation there won't be any stairs, he says. There's going to be ramps everywhere for his wheelchair. Now, you can see that I don't know the answer to all of this. The reason that I believe, first of all, in the resurrection of the body, and I believe that God transforms stuff, and that the new creation is going to have this more than physical, is simply because I have a very strong commitment to bodily resurrection. That the evidence that the tomb was empty, that the evidence that Jesus was transformed into someone who was the same but different, and that Jesus was not resurrected like Lazarus, but actually transformed to something greater. It's on that I base my trust more than anything else. Now, if that's the model of the personal, then, as Paul says in 1 Corinthians, Jesus is the first fruits of that which is to come. Then for me, the doctrine of eschatology is supported, focused, founded on the resurrection of Jesus. But of course, if we had those 5 days, we'd want to talk about millennialism. We'd want to talk about the verse in 2 Peter that you raised the other night. We'd want to talk about the pictures in Revelation, particularly 21, and what that's all about. And little things in the biblical witness, which you know as well as I. I mean, when the author of Revelation says there'll be a new heaven and new earth, and the sea will be no more. Well, what's that all about? I mean, those of you who love sailing or swimming, I'm really sorry, there's going to be no sea. Well, of course, let me give you a final heretical reading on this. Because lots of people go into the sea in Revelation as the place of evil, and therefore the author is saying, in the new heaven and new earth, there won't be any evil. I've got a hunch on this. Because I think to myself, where is John when he records this revelation? He's on an island of Patmos, and he's separated from all of his friends by the sea. And I think this is a picture which says, in the new heaven, new earth, it's not just about my individual body. It's about this sense of togetherness, of reconciliation and restoration of all tribes, nations, tongues, in a way that celebrates the great diversity of creation.